So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Lastly, we have the budget workshop minutes from 5/30/2024. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay. Next we have presentations, celebrations, and recognitions. We will have school district character student of the month. Miles Ricard. Come on up, if you will. Along with your family or teacher. And tell us what it is about you that's so special. You want to talk to, need to go to the mic over here, probably? Maybe they can hear you, it's kind of quiet. Who, is y'all with parents?
I am, yeah, I can talk.
Sure.
Miles worked very hard this year to overcome some self-control and behavior issues, and his grades really improved, and he was like a whole new man by the end of the year, and we're just really proud of him.
Right, what school you go to? Okay, awesome. Well, here's a couple of little gifts for you. You have to be special to get them. Don't lose them. And that's very encouraging to say that you made a turn and now that you're doing better than you were, just stay on the path. And we appreciate you and congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good job. I can't see that. What is this? Yeah, but you don't tell me what school they're from. Okay, up next we'll have Christian Likens. What school is she from? What did you say? Christian Likens, character trait forgiveness for April. That's pretty awesome. Who would like to talk about him and tell us about his accomplishments?
I would love to talk about him. My name's Erin Turner. I was his first grade teacher, and it's just been a pleasure to work with Christian. I could pretty much nominate him for every character trait just because he's such an amazing kid and just kind to everyone and a hard worker. And he's just done a really good job this year, and I'm really proud of him.
And what school is he?
Pritchardville.
Okay, great. Well, we have a couple of special little gifts for you. Don't lose them. Hold on. 10 years from now, I want you to come back and show them to us. We're still around. And this is for you and your mom to put on your wall.
You ready? All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next we have Juneteenth proclamation. Who do we have that's going to come up and accept this? Gwen? Is Gwen here? Chris, come on. Please. So, Juneteenth proclamation. Whereas on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared the enslaved peoples in any state or designated part of the state to be then, henceforward, and forever free. And whereas this proclamation paved the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas on June 19, 1865, federal orders were read in Galveston, Texas, reaching the authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States who had not yet received word of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, and whereas on June 19th has since become known as Freedom Day or Emancipation Day, a holiday that commemorates the announcement of the abolishment of slavery in Texas in June 1865, 901 days after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Abraham Lincoln. And whereas the Bluffton Juneteenth celebration is sponsored and hosted annually by the Bluffton MLK Observance Committee, with the 9th annual Juneteenth celebration with the theme Honoring the Past, Celebrating the Progress, Building on the Promise of Freedom for All. And that, excuse me, and whereas the town of Bluffton is committed to pursuing the ideas of justice, equality, and peace, the town recognizes Juneteenth as an important opportunity to honor the principles and Declaration of Independence and to celebrate African American freedom while reflecting on the continuous significant contributions of African Americans to the Bluffton community, the state of South Carolina, and across our nation. And therefore, in recognition of the 161st anniversary of the emancipation of all people who were enslaved in the United States of America, I, Mayor Larry Toomer, along with Bluffton Town Council, do hereby declare June 19, 2024 as Juneteenth Day in the town of Bluffton, designating it as a Town of Bluffton holiday. So, Bridget, tell them a little bit more if you would like.
Sure. You want to get our picture first, or you want me to get our picture?
Either way. Okay. I got it, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations for job well done.
Sure. So everyone at home can hear, so Juneteenth, this is the 9th year that the Bluffton MLK Observance Committee has hosted Juneteenth celebrations, and we have a weekend long of events culminating with Friday, which will be a Black Food Truck Festival event at the Buckwalter Park in conjunction with the town of Bluffton. We will have our celebration of Juneteenth Day on Saturday, June 15th at Burn Church Distillery. We have a host of entertainers who will be there, drum circles, gullah storytelling, a lot of amazing food vendors and retail vendors as well. And we will also have a reenactment this year from a group who reenacts what the 54th Infantry did when they did arrive on horses and actually made the announcement of the emancipation. And Sunday we end with a brunch celebration inside of the distillery. And all of the events Friday and Saturday are free and open to the public and open to anyone who'd like to come and celebrate community with us. And so we are encouraging everyone to come out. If you've never been, it is definitely a great event. So we look forward to seeing everyone, and we are grateful for the town and collaborating with the MLK committee on this. Thank you.
Up next, here, no, she's already up here. Okay, so this is going to be our National Gun Violence Awareness Day proclamation.
I do not have any remarks.
Oh yeah, you're going to get some.
No, I cannot give any.
It's my rule. Okay, Gun Violence Awareness Month proclamation. Whereas gun violence touches every segment of our society and impacts people of all ages, it increases the probability of death and the incidence of domestic violence, raises the likelihood of fatality by those who intend to injure others, and among those who attempt suicide. It places children and young people at risk for physical harm and injury, and disproportionately affects communities of color. And whereas Gun Violence Awareness Month honors the many lives that have been cut short by gun violence in our country and our community, and supports efforts to reduce gun-related crimes in the United States. And whereas it is important to recognize community organizations which assist families that have been directly impacted by gun violence and provide a continuum of care grieving parents, spouses, family members, and friends who must continue to provide their surviving family members. And whereas the town supports continued statewide efforts to strengthen gun safety laws and educate the community on gun safety storage. And whereas it is appropriate to set aside time to honor those Americans whose lives are cut short each year by gun violence and the countless survivors whose lives are forever altered. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Larry Toomer, along with Bluffton Town Council, do hereby proclaim June 24th in Bluffton as Gun Violence Awareness Month and urge all citizens, businesses, organizations, and agencies to work collaboratively to reduce gun violence in our community. I've set my hand because, anyway. So, tell us just a little bit about why you're here accepting this.
Obviously, this is a very important issue right now in the United States. Guns are the #1 killer of children under 18, which is just completely unacceptable. So the group that I'm with, which is Everytown for Gun Safety, works to promote safe gun storage laws and strengthen gun safety laws around the country.
Great, very worthy. So many people are affected, and it could be our kids, anybody's at any time.
Are you ready? I got it, thank you.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Okay, moving on next, we'll move into our public comment section. Do we have any public comments before?
One public comment.
Okay. During public comment, each speaker is limited to a total of 3 minutes per meeting, regardless of whether the person is speaking on their own behalf or as an agent for others. Meeting attendees may not donate, transfer, yield, or give all or any portion of their speaking time to another person. All public comments are to be conducted from the podium and directed to town council as a whole and not to any member thereof. All speakers shall be mindful and respectful of those participating in or present at the meeting. Speakers shall be expected to be civil in their language and shall refrain from comment or behavior that involves disorderly speech or action, name calling, personal attack, threats, obscene or indecent remarks, and or disruptive actions. All speakers shall confine their comments to issues under the jurisdiction of town council. Speakers shall not use the public comment period to promote or advertise awards, businesses, services, goods, or candidates for public office. Any speaker that violates these rules and protocols for the public comment may be ruled out of order by the presiding officer. Any person whose comments have been ruled out of order shall immediately cease and desist from further improper comments. The refusal of an individual to desist from further improper comments may subject the individual to removal from the meeting and or citation under section 2-49 of the town code.
Ms. Sharon Brown.
Sharon Brown. Let's see Sharon Brown. I'm out of breath. Okay, well, if she comes in later, I guess we can see. All right. Communications from mayor and council. We'll start with Fred. Mix it up.
I'll mix it up. I give my time to Dan Wood.
Well, I'll take that time, and I'm going to pass my time to Ms. Frazier. Councilwoman Frazier recently participated with the Hilton Head Symphony, and I would like for her to say a little bit more on that for us. I think that was a big deal.
Well, because Dan put the request in, I will. So I was asked by the Hilton Head Symphony Orchestra to participate in the series they have that's called Gullah Me, Gullah You. And it was in conjunction with myself and Ahmad Ward, who's the executive director of Mitchellville. And it was them talking about starting Juneteenth on Hilton Head, which this is their 10th year celebrating the holiday. And we started Juneteenth 9 years ago in Bluffton, and we talked about the history, the origins, and the background of it, and knowing that our area actually had a greater impact, which some people aren't aware of, Special Order 15, which was involving General Sherman at the time, and African-American preachers in the Savannah area and our area. One was actually called Garrison Frazier, made up what they felt the enslaved of the time would need in order to survive, since the war had ended and the Union was successful. But we gave a lot of the background of how Harriet Tubman and so many others actually were responsible for helping the Union gain the success they did in the war, through that espionage, and the link between what we knew as the burning of Bluffton all is a part of what we now know, the celebrating of the emancipation. So it was a great event to be a part of, and I was grateful to represent Bluffton and have been asked to do so. So those were considered Dan's time. My time in communication, I just wanted to continue along the lines of highlighting some of the celebrations we have coming up. The recognition of Juneteenth is this weekend. We hope everyone comes out and participate. Happy early Father's Day to all the fathers that we have here and in the community. And June is also now known as Pride Month, and so I would like to extend a happy Pride Month to all of those residents and even staff that we have who do identify with the LGBTQ community, and hoping that everyone's enjoying June and that it does not get too hot.
I just want to say a few things for the record. We had a lot of residents complaining on Sunday about the music at Oyster Factory Park for the festival that was going on there. I heard it myself, and I've discussed it a little bit with our town manager and some of council members. And for the record, I want people to know that we are going to look at our ordinance and see what we can do, so hopefully that won't happen again. It's not done yet, but we are working on it, and I heard it with my own ears, and I totally understand why it's something that we need to get change our ordinance if that's what it takes, but we need to address it. So that's all. Emily?
I'll reiterate what you just said, and then also I'm excited and I look forward. I know the staff has been working hard on our 4th of July celebration that will be held on June 30th with the 5K and fireworks and everything. So I hope everyone will come out for that as well.
Great. Okay. Next, we've got a public hearing and final reading for the consideration of an ordinance approving the town of Bluffton fiscal year 2025 proposed consolidated budget. So right, this time we will open a public hearing for comments. First call for comments on the budget. Second call for comments on the budget. Third call. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Cease? Yes, sir.
I will, good evening, Mayor and Council. I will go through this a little quicker than I have the past 3 times that we've had
3
budget
minutes,
workshops. But again, it is always important to go through this for those who could or could not be at specific meetings. So there are still quite a number of slides, but fewer than first reading, fewer than our workshops. But again, we're going to go through every the details of the budget. So this is our budget process. We're at the last step, which is June 11th, which is the public hearing and second reading. Should council approve its second reading tonight, the budget will go into effect July 1st and run July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. So one change that has taken place since first reading on May 14th is the town received a grant in the amount of $144,000 to support our neighborhood assistance program. It came from the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust, and it is to help the neighborhood assistance program, and it is at additional $9,000 per home that we go to repair that we can supplement to make sure our money goes further. So that's the only change that's been made between first reading and second reading. So I'm going to go through the proposed budget overview. And again, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly since we've done this numerous times. But overall, the budget is about $90,620,000 for the town. It is down about $1.8 million from the previous budget. The majority of that is from the reduction in the capital improvement program fund, from where we're completing projects and carrying less money forward. The general fund overall is up about $760,000, which is a 2.4% increase. But overall, the overall town budget is down about 2% over where we were last year. So one of the things that we do is we have interfund transfers. These are departments that transfer money to support other funds. So we want to make sure that we highlight where the funds are moving within the budget. So you can see in the general fund what transfers into those departments. You can see hospitality, local accommodations tax, stormwater funds, and so forth down. You can see the biggest one is our capital improvement fund, and that is all the transfer ins come from the different funds to do capital projects, with the majority coming from hospitality, and then broken up debt service, with the rest of it broken up over hospitality, local accommodations, and so forth. And we have slides in here that will get into more detail on that. This is just the overview of it. There is a couple proposed changes to the master fee schedule. We've gone over these again previously. One is adding a fee for a thumb drive for anything the police has to fill that is larger than a CD. As you know, they don't hold what they used to compared to the size of documents now. So when things are 2 or 3 gigabytes, it requires a thumb drive over a CD. We've added in calls for rechecking additional building fees, our permits, our plans. We talked about the stormwater management fees for the post-inspection, follow-up inspections, and then also re-inspection after stop work orders. So some of the highlights for the consolidated budget. It does recognize a slight slowdown in growth. The slowdown has to do with the residential side. It's not nearly as prolific as it was a couple years ago during COVID, but we are starting to see commercial pick up. But commercial moves at a slower pace than residential does, and also comes in one big lump versus coming in over individual properties within a development over time. It does hold our property taxes, our tax millage, the same as it was in the current budget year, which is 36 mills. It also focuses on town council's priorities: affordable housing, historic preservation, enhancing our quality of life, and doing community outreach and celebrations. It also works to keep our pay competitive for our employees. They're our most important part of our operations, as we have to have good quality people to be able to implement the services we provide to our citizens. So it does include a cost of living increase of 2%, and a class and comp study up to 7%. That 7 does include the 2% COLA, so everybody will be between 2 and 7 within that range. And then a mid-year merit increase of 2%, which is consistent with what we've done over the last few years. It continues to invest in public infrastructure. These are our capital projects. You can see the sewers, streetscapes, parks, and we'll go through where those projects are in a little bit. Again, it keeps up our strategic interagency partnerships. You can see those here as well. Partnering with our local agencies like USCB, the school district for our crossing guards and our SROs, Don Ryan Center for Innovation, as well as our new ability to use our accommodations tax for affordable housing programs, and partnering with our DMO, which is on the agenda later tonight, to continue our agreement with them. So, our estimated value of a mill, this is where we see the growth that we've seen in Bluffton and the increase in property values captured. You can see since our current fiscal year to our proposed budget, our next fiscal year, we've seen the estimated value increase by almost $90 million. What that means is a mill now is worth about $90,000 more than what it was last year. And overall, you can see where the millage of the town goes. 34.3 into the general fund operations, and then 1.7 into our general obligation debt to service that debt. So a total of 36 mills, same as the current year. So we're going to go into the funds individually now. So the general fund is mostly where we perform the town's day-to-day operations out of. It's what most people think of when they think of local government operations. This right here gives you an idea of where how our revenues and our expenditures are kind of lumped into categories. We'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute. But you can see where the different revenue sources come from up at the top, with property taxes making up about $10 million of the revenue, about $12 million coming from license and permits. That's your business license and building permits. And then grants and entitlements, you can see that number is up significantly. It's up almost 100% over the previous year. The large portion of that is the $1.6 million we received from Senator Graham's office to go to replace police equipment. And again, those grants are for one-time purchases that will take place. So that's why that number fluctuates year to year. You can also see some of the transfers in from hospitality, the local accommodations, state accommodations, and we'll break those out later on what they're supporting. On the expenditure side, you can see, again, the biggest expense we have is our employees. They're what make the town and make us be able to provide such excellent services. You can see the increase in the cost for salaries and benefits. Part of that is an increase to the insurance that we have. It's up 11.8% over the current year. That's our health insurance. And then you can also, with the class and comp and the increase for mid-year merit, that makes up the difference in the other part of the increase there. So what's all included, some of the highlights in the general fund. We've talked a little bit about these. We talked about the class and comp and the merit and COLA increases. It does continue our PTO option to pay out up to 25 hours for employees. Again, mentioned the 11.8% health insurance increase that we're seeing from the state PIBA. And it also has some new positions proposed in there. Within the communications and community outreach, we'll be opening the Squire Pope Carriage House as the welcome center for the town. The target date for that is still January 1st. Once that's in place, we'll actually hire the full-time person ahead of time to help us finalize the operations and get it ready to run. So that'll be what that position's for, and then we'll have a part-time person that will help and support once the operations center is up and running. The welcome center is up and running. Police, we have a full-time community relations manager that will help with them coordinating community outreach events and other marketing things for the police, social media, as well as PR press releases, and coordinate with the communication and community outreach to ensure that there's coordination there. It also increases our crossing guards by 1 to 8, and that new one will be stationed at May River to help with some of the congestion and traffic coming out of that school complex on the new Riverside Road. And we have 3 new public service worker positions. These are all full-time positions, and they recognize the growth that we've had in the number of parks and facilities that the town maintains, and that we need to have additional help in being able to keep those up to the quality that we expect for our citizens. A few others, it does continue our professional development and staff certifications. It keeps our trash collection in place and recognizes the potential. We did receive notification that it will cap out at our 3% for the increase that they are eligible to recoup each year. It supports our historic preservation. Again, I mentioned Don Ryan. So it supports all of our continuing staff programs. Also continue some of our other programs here, have those outlined, as well as continuing our vehicle lease program that we're doing for the police vehicles. And it also offers a couple enhancements to employee programs. Talked about these more in detail, but one is a proposed on-site wellness clinic for employees, as well as an employer home buying assistance, which we workshopped with the Affordable Housing Committee last week. So we'll be bringing that to council should this continue forward and look to set those programs in place. So moving on to special revenue funds now. These are our hospitality and local accommodations tax funds. So our hospitality tax is the 2% that's collected on gross sales of prepared meals and beverages throughout the town. Overall, that fund generates in revenues a little over $4 million. And then you can see our expenditures are actually a lot higher than that. A lot of that is because of the capital projects where we'll be transferring out. We'll go through the details here of that in a second. Actually, you can see it in the transfer in from the prior year fund balance. I missed that, I apologize. So these are the capital, where the money that's being transferred out to go out of hospitality. It's being transferred out to capital projects. About 5 million of it is going in there to support capital projects. You can see the list of that here and at what levels. You'll see that most of them have to do with parks, as well as projects within the historic district and streetscapes. Outside of that, we do make a transfer to the general fund, and these are the items that it offsets. You can see a lot of it are personnel, like communication and community outreach. They put on the town's events, the funding for most of the town's events, like the fireworks for the July Festival that was mentioned, our movie events, concert series that will start this fall. Those all come out of our hospitality tax fund. So the personnel that puts those on, that cost gets transferred in to offset that within the general fund. And then you can see the other departments that support the different events throughout the town, as well as the public services that does cleanup, helps set up, helps coordinate the events as well. And then different things that they use it for, like the Rotary Center, where we have people rent, Squire Pope Carriage House, which is going to be the Welcome Center, and then townwide it does street lighting, and it also does our transportation partnership with the Bluffton Breeze, who presented at our budget workshop. The local accommodations tax, it's equivalent to 3% on gross proceeds derived from rental or charges for sleeping accommodations. That's mostly Airbnb, hotels. So overall, that's anticipated to decrease a little bit over last year. We're seeing the rates, as well as the, you heard from the DMO at one of the workshops, that we're seeing rental rates, the cost per room, as well as the rates of occupancy down a little bit over where we were last year. So we're anticipating that to decrease slightly, about 15-16%. And then you'll see under the expenditures, the majority of that goes out to, again, our CIP fund to fund capital projects, and some goes into the general fund to offset expenses as well. So for the capital projects, this gives you the breakdown of that. Then into the general fund, again, you can see community outreach for the Welcome Center, our Bluffton Ambassadors Program, police for special events, community service assistance. That's offset some of the costs for the two of those you see operating within Old Town. And then again, workforce housing. So workforce housing, this is a new one this year, and you'll hear from Kevin later on amending the comp plan so that we can begin using 15% of local and state accommodations tax to go towards workforce housing. This is something the state allowed us as part of the law they put into place last legislative session, but it came with some stipulations for local accommodations tax. What we have in our comp plan currently meets the qualifications for that. We're amending the comp plan to make sure we have everything that's required for the state accommodations tax. So the 15% from local accommodations tax is recommended to go to support our programs. That would be our neighborhood assistance program. The one from state aid tax is recommended to go to support our projects, like our affordable housing project on 1095 May River, or any other programs or projects we may want to put in place moving forward. Next is the stormwater fund. So this is a charge that shows up on property taxes bill, it's a stormwater fee, as well as it's collected through permits that we receive to operate the town's stormwater system. We're required to do so as part of the MS4 program. There's a requirement from the federal government to the state, and then from the state to us. So we're required to to implement this as by both agencies. We do partner with USCB to do monitoring services and microbial source tracking, and this continues to keep those in place. As you can see, it is estimated to generate in revenue about 2.46 in million. The majority of that coming from the stormwater utility fee, and then a little short of 400,000 coming from permit licenses and permit fees that we collect throughout the year. We are transferring in prior year fund balance to make up the rest of it, but a lot of that is going out to CIP projects that we fund with stormwater, as well as debt service that we have debt obligations against our stormwater account, as well as supporting the general fund for the operations of the stormwater department. So to give you a breakdown of those transfer outs, you can see the projects that are being funded total about 1.28 million. Then you can see where it comes into the to support operations. And then you can see the 2020A GO bond that it's paying the debt on of about $300,000. The next to last is our capital improvement program. So the funding from this comes from all of our different other funding sources, as we talked about earlier. And then it goes out to a lot of cluster of different projects. They're kind of clustered into different categories in the bottom down there. We'll show those a little more in detail in a minute, but you can see we have facilities, housing, land acquisition, park projects, roads, stormwater, and sewer. Overall, the capital improvement budget is a little over $33 million proposed for fiscal year 25. And as you can see, that is about a $4.5 million decrease from the current fiscal year. This sheet is very busy. This will be available on our website as soon as we're done. But this is also something that that we went through more detail during our workshop on capital projects. Where this does is it gives you a breakdown of all the projects that we have for capital projects on the left, and then it tells you which funding sources are actually funding the project to get it to completion. So you have hospitality tax on the far left, then local accommodations, state aid tax, stormwater fees, TIF, bond revenue, and then transferring from general fund, as well as carrying forward from the fund balance. So again, busy, but trying to consolidate compared to previous presentations. Where do these capital projects take place? As you can see, they go on throughout the entire town. You can see some of the park projects, some of the land acquisition that we've done, sewer projects with Stony Creek and so forth out of the town. And then you can see a lot in Old Town. Some of these are individual sewer projects, like we have 4, 5, 6 Old Town sewer projects, as well as several streetscapes throughout Old Town. So last is debt service fund. So this is where we use to pay our debt and obligations for principal and interest that we have taken for long-term debt. The revenue from this mostly comes from the general fund, as well as some stormwater fund for the from the one. You can see on the expenditure side, it gives you the 4 different bonds that we're paying for. We have the 2014 TIF bond, the 2022 TIF bond, the 2020 GO, and the 2020A GO bond. Debt service also transfers out and for projects. So you can see where some of those debt service funds are being used. Those would be the sewer projects and like the sewer revenue that we have from the stormwater bond, stormwater bond, as well as like TIF is going into the new Riverside Park barn site. So after the debt service, this takes us back to our consolidated budget, which brings us kind of full circle, and it gives you a breakdown of all the funds that we talked about. You can see the general fund, special revenue funds that we went through, the stormwater fund, capital improvement program fund, and debt service fund for a total consolidated budget of $90,620,863. So that brings us to where we are tonight, which is for second and final reading. And I will be glad to answer any questions that council may have. and address anything that I may have not hit that we talked about during one of the budget workshops that you may want me to address.
Emily?
I'm good.
Bridget? Fred?
Yes.
Guess what?
Budget.
Oh, you're good. Dana?
Question. So in the last 7, 8 years, we have lowered the millage from 40.35 to 36. After the last assessment, we lowered it. Did the county lower theirs or did they hold theirs? Did theirs go up? Do you know? I don't know if you would know that.
No, I don't know the answer to that. I could get it for you.
I was just
don't
curious.
know. I hate to say, make an assumption, but I think with the increase in property values, I'm assuming they probably did decrease their millage rate as well. But I'd have to get an answer to you. I don't know that.
Okay, and then the only other part of that is I think the school board is having, either had or is having like a 4 mil increase, are they not?
I think there was proposed for an increase. I'm not sure of what level. I know they're trying to get pay up for their teachers, but I'm not sure at what level they proposed an increase.
The reason I mention this is not to, however anybody else does their business is their business. It's just the fact that, so our citizens do realize that we're very cognizant of how we spend the money, especially with millage. And so we have provided a lot of it back over the last 7 years. And anything that happens on the other side of the ledger sheet, being when the county or schools, it helps offset some of that.
Yes, sir. And we talked a little bit during our budget workshop about what the actual town millage and how it breaks down as an average home value. And I think overall the town's, what is remitted back to the town from property taxes is about a quarter of what's actually paid in your total property tax bill because of the school district, the fire district, the county, and the county collections. We make up about a quarter of an average tax bill.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, no more discussion, do we have a motion to approve the 2025 proposed consolidated budget?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Mayor, I would be remiss if I did not thank council for their involvement in the process, for finance, for Natalie, for senior staff, Chris, and everybody who's been involved to get the budget to where it is and to get it to adoption. So thank y'all for approving tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, did a great job. Okay, we'll move on to formal agenda items. Up next is designated marketing organization annual marketing plan and consideration of a resolution for the 2025 budget and marketing plan presented by Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce in accordance with contract number 2022-35 as the town of Bluffton's designated marketing organization. Ariar Pernice, Vice President and Visitor of Visitor Convention Bureau.
Natalie.
I'll be presenting those.
Natalie.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to present the DMO for resolution. Just a little bit of background. The state requires that 30% of state accommodations tax be managed by a selected organization, and that the selected organization provide an annual budget for review each year. This budget did go before ATAC on May 21st. It also was presented at the second budget workshop to Town Council. The fiscal year 25 budget does not include any local accommodations tax as it has in 2 prior fiscal years. And this will be year 3 of the contract. And after that, we will have to go out for an RFP. This is the budget. They are proposing $350,000 for fiscal year 25. And Ariana is in the audience if you have any questions. Staff does recommend that Town Council approve the resolution, and then upon so Town Manager is authorized to then sign it for fiscal year 25. This resolution will be for fiscal year 25, which starts on July 1st. And again, this will be year 3 of the contract. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Okay, would somebody like to make the motion?
I make a motion to approve a resolution for the fiscal year 2025 budget and marketing plan presented by the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce in accordance with contract 2022-35 as the town of Bluffton's designated marketing organization.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Up next, we have consideration of ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinance, Chapter 24, Taxation, second and final reading, and Miss Natalie is still there.
I'm still here.
Every time I look down and look back up here.
This is second reading. There have been no changes since first reading, but just a quick note that this presentation was also given to ATAC at its meeting, and there were no comments or recommendations from the committee. And this is for second reading. And I'm happy to go through the additional slides if you like, but there have been no changes.
Discussion from council? Emily?
No.
Fred? Bridget?
No.
Dan? And I have any? I have none. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the ordinance amending the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinance, Chapter 24, Taxation as presented.
We have a second?
Okay.
No discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'll skip something here. Okay, up next, we have consideration of Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee funding recommendations for the quarter ending March 34, 2024. Natalie again.
Okay, we had 6 applicants for this quarter, with 5 having recommendations for fundings, and I'll go through each one, but feel free to stop me if
Do
there's
we
any
want to discuss each one and vote on it, or how we're gonna?
They're listed underneath individually so that you can vote on them individually.
Right, so she's gonna talk about them all first, and then we're gonna come back and vote, or?
Are you doing them individually,
individually.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll vote each time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the total recommended amount from ATAC is $148,632. Currently, there is $38,461 available for distribution from state accommodations tax funds. And this is just a summary of the requested amounts and the recommendations from the committee. The first applicant is the Society of Bluffton Artists. They will be celebrating their 30th year anniversary, and this is for advertising and promotion. They are requesting $20,000, and ATAC is recommending $20,000 in support.
Any questions or comments from council? Someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to grant Society of Bluffton Artists $20,000 in support of the 30th year anniversary project as presented in the staff report breakdown for advertising and promotion tourism expenses.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
The next applicant is the Hilton Head Symphony Orchestra. This is for the 2024 Bluffton concerts. They are requesting $43,632. They have scheduled an outdoor pops concert on October 17th that will coincide with the Hilton, with the Arts and Seafood Festival, and then a holiday pops concert on November 30th at St. Gregory the Great. Again, they are requesting $43,632, and that is what ATAC is also recommending.
Questions or comments? Is there a motion?
I make the motion to grant the Hilton Head Sympathy Orchestra $43,632 in support of the 24th Bluffton concert as presented in the staff report. Breakdown for advertising, promotion of tourism, and facility for civil and cultural events expenses.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
The third request is from Blackwoody. This is for the Roots and Rivers Festival. This is their second event, and it will be held on September 14th at Oyster Factory Park. They are requesting $25,000 in support of the event.
I'd like to make mention, Mayor, that I need to recuse myself from this request.
Here's your. So you have that, Marcia? From Ms. Frazier recused. Is there, any discussion or a motion?
I make the motion to grant Blackwood South Carolina $25,000 in support of the 2024 Roots and River Festival event as presented in staff report breakdown.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous with the exception of Ms. Frazier. For the record.
All right, the Bluffton MLK Observance Committee will be hosting the 9th annual Bluffton Juneteenth weekend that Councilwoman Frazier had mentioned before. On Friday, there will be a food truck event at the Buckwalter Park, and then on Saturday and Sunday, the events will be held at Burnt Church Distillery. They are requesting $20,000 in support of the weekend.
And I guess you're gonna recuse yourself.
Yes, I need to recuse myself from this one as well.
You got it, Ms. Marcia? Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant the Bluffton MLK Observance Committee $20,000 in support of the Bluffton 9th Annual Juneteenth event as presented in the staff report breakdown for advertising and promotion of tourism, facilities for civic and cultural events expenses, public facilities, and tourist transportation.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous with the exception of Ms. Frazier.
Okay. And the last recommendation is for the Historic Bluffton Foundation to serve as the town's welcome center. This is a quarterly request, so this will span the time frame between July and September of 2024, and they're requesting $40,000 for that quarter.
And this will be their last request for,
They will come again, they'll come again probably, yeah, for October
before we
through
get
December.
open. We're looking to open in January?
January, so they'll have to do 2 quarterly applications should everything stay on schedule.
Okay. Any questions from council? Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to grant Historic Bluffton Foundation $40,000 for fiscal year 2025 quarterly application from July the 1st, 2024 through September the 30th, 2024 for Welcome Center services.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay, and then I just would like to mention that there was another applicant from HCF for the Luke Peoples Music event, but the committee has tabled it and has recommended that they come back at this next quarter.
I just like to ask one question. How much, I don't see our balance on here, like how much we gave away, how much we awarded totally and how much we had available.
Yes. So let's see here. This will probably be a better slide. There's recommended that was just approved, $148,632.
Okay.
In the orange, there's available $398,461, which will leave a balance of just shy of $250,000.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, up next, we have consideration of an ordinance to amend the Town of Bluffton's comprehensive plan. Blueprint Bluffton. to incorporate a housing impact analysis. First reading, Mr. Kevin Icard.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We are here this evening. This is a first reading on a request to amend our comprehensive plan. This is part of the, as the town manager had mentioned, we had additional funds that were coming in through the ATAX funding, and state legislation through the State Act 57 allows for 15% of the town's collection of those accommodation tax to be used for the support of workforce housing. So the definition that the state has for workforce housing is that housing at 30% to 120% of the local area median income. And to give you a perspective, a family of 4 in Beaufort County in 2024, that is $106,400. So there is a sunset on this through December 31st of 2020. We're approximating about $150,000 that we can use of ATAX funding that would support all of the initiatives that we have for affordable housing. As stated in here, we can use the money. We could distribute to nonprofit or for-profit organizations if we decide. Again, internal transfers, debt service on capital projects, funds to sponsor housing programs, including the Neighborhood Assistance Program if we so choose. And it also allows the town to issue bonds to develop workforce housing. So the housing analysis, which was provided as an attachment in your packet, is part of that requirement where we have to provide a copy of this housing analysis to the Department of Revenue. And as you can see here that they did receive this on May 31st. So we've met that qualification. There was no, they weren't reviewing it for any type of information, just a matter that all the information that was stated in that, that state Act 57 was in there, which it is. So from the criteria that we have listed in our Unified Development Ordinance, as you can see, it met all the criteria. I'm not going to go through all these, but if you have questions, I'm happy to go through them. Some of them are not applicable. From a step standpoint, this went to Planning Commission. That is a workshop, not a workship. Just noticed that in April. And then it went back to Planning Commission with a public hearing and recommendation, which was favorable. And this evening we're here for a first reading, and we will bring this back to you for a final reading and public hearing tentatively in July. And my understanding is for the funding, funding would be available in October.
We receive it quarterly.
Quarterly, so, right, so there we go. I have a motion for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from council?
Yeah.
Bridget, go ahead.
I have a question, Kevin. I recall from the workshop on this item, our last meeting, there were supposed to be 2 items or recommended amendments, one about the housing impact analysis and one about an inclusion of a commission of some sort for the Gullah community. And I don't see any mention or addition of that, or am I mistaken, of that being added back in?
I think that's a separate item that we are working on that, but that's not associated with this housing impact analysis. And I'm happy to talk to you afterwards, but we are working towards that.
Right. Now, I was looking at this was us approving from the last conversation, the blueprint that was presented. So I didn't know if this is a focus on we're finalizing our approval of the blueprint, or is just an isolated approval of the housing analysis?
This is isolated for the housing analysis.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we don't not include or overlook that.
Yes, correct. And I know there were some items under the Buckeye and Simmonsville neighborhood plan that we referred to and that we are working on, but this is a separate item.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions, Dan?
I'm just going to make an observation. It was staggering to look at that report, which is extremely well written, by the way. It was classic.
Thank you.
I've been sitting with Mr. Hamilton for 8 years. He has, raised the flag in the county about affordable housing. We're doing things, we're making progress, but when you look at the average salary in the town, which the report revealed at $58,952, but the median home cost in Bluffton is $494,000. It's like it just illustrates the importance of the battle that's been fought all these years. And we just have to keep doing our best to bring livability and affordability to our town and our citizens.
You're correct.
Mr. Hamilton?
And Kevin, came to a couple of our affordable housing meeting when that discussion said that we got to find ways to increase more incentive to encourage developers or even private landowners to build those products. So keep looking forward to maybe our annual workshop, but as well as staff to continue to give us some guidance on how we can encourage or enhance what we already have in place.
Yes, sir. I was actually with staff today brainstorming about that, and our goal is to kind of workshop some items that we're coming up with the Affordable Housing Committee at their next meeting. Yes, sir.
I thought it was very well done. Good job.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the comprehensive plan amendment to incorporate the housing impact analysis into the town of Bluffton comprehensive plan.
I'll second that.
No discussion, is there, everybody say, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Up next, we have consideration of an ordinance authorizing an economic development incentive agreement between the town of Bluffton and Palmetto Land Associates LLC in support of the development of 11,800 square feet of medical and healthcare facility space. This will be second and final reading. And David Nelms, Don Ryan Center, CEO.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pleasure to be here in front of you today. I apologize. Chris would not loan me his orange jacket. And so I cannot pop like Chris does on the video or in front of you. With that being said, this is second reading for this Palmetto Land Grant this Land Associates. There's only one change that the council suggested that there be a time frame added, a 3-year time frame agreement. So we have added that. The grant will expire by September 30th, 2027. Would need to be reapproved by council at that time as development has not occurred. However, they do plan to break ground this year and be well within that timeline. But that's the only change that we have to this this second reading. I have a motion for you, and if you would like to approve the question, have any other questions, I'm happy to answer those as well.
Any questions from council?
Yes, I have a question. In looking at the agreement that was crafted here that included the addition of that 3-year time frame that's going to go out to the developer, I had a question in terms of what's going to be the time frame of our allocation of those financial incentives, knowing that the first phase of this project is the pickleball and food and beverage portion and not the healthcare facility. And so in the event that we get to that 3 years and they've received like the water and the capacity credits and whatever other financial incentives we give them, if they do not hold up their end of the bargain, what do we have in place in terms of ensuring that, or even penalizing them if they violate what they've promised they were going to do?
Well, keep in mind, it is a reimbursement grant, so they only get paid if they hit the milestones. And one of those milestones is to make sure that 11,800 square feet of medical space, providing a certain number of jobs they've already specified, has occurred. So once that occurs, then they get reimbursed. So the town's not out any money unless they, but the town won't be out any money because they have to do that first to get the money back. So as long as they do it within the time frame, they get the grant funding. And if they don't do it within the time frame at all, they'd have to reapply for the whole process. So the town's protected under that scenario.
Okay, that's what I thought, but when you look at the timetable, it is a little confusing because under that first year,
Yes.
It says 100% of like capacity credits and everything else is kind of phased out going from year 1 to year 3.
It's a rolling construction phase, but they do have to execute the things we've specified in the grant for the medical portion, because that's what the economic development ordinance addresses.
Thank you.
Right, and it's my understanding that they do not get anything until the CO.
Yes, sir.
Until they've obtained a CO, and then we reimburse them up to the amount that we've.
Yes, it's not a risk for the town.
Right.
Because they have to.
Build it
everything up
before.
front, and then they get the money back.
Correct, that's the way I
There's
understand.
no money fronted to them, no, sir.
Right. Emily, any questions on this?
No questions.
I think to add to Bridget's concern, how do we prioritize what we would like to see them do in this meeting?
Well, our priority is that as part of the economic development ordinance, that we create jobs in those target industries, medical being one of them that's addressed here, in that geographic portion of the town. So that's what we're looking them to do. As far as the earlier comments about, hiring people that live in Bluffton, that type of thing, that's a market-driven type of thing. I know that was mentioned at the last council meeting. That is something we can work on as a marketing type of agreement, but we're making sure that they have to hire and do those types of industries based on the economic development ordinance. That's how the ordinance is written currently.
Maybe that's important to me.
I know it is. That's why I brought it up unaidedly. Yes, sir.
Mr. Wood?
Nothing, sir.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve a second and final reading of an ordinance authorizing the town to enter into an economic development grant agreement between the town of Bluffton and Palmetto Land Associate LLC.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you, David. Okay, moving on now to the consent agenda items. Are there any items on this list that any of council would like to pull off?
Other than me?
Everything good?
I'm good.
Just for, since Felicia's here, I'd like to pull off number 7. I just have a question or two pertaining to,
Vehicle contract,
Yeah.
vehicle maintenance?
yeah, I don't have an issue, I just want clarification. So my question is, now that we are under all of our cars are leased, for the largest amount of our vehicles are now under the lease program, if I understand.
So the lease is just for the police department, where in year 4 of 5 we're through year 3 of 5 right now.
For the police department, but our
Yes, sir.
town cars, our regular.
Not overall, not the other town vehicles, no, sir. The lease is just with the police department.
Only, okay, I don't know.
Now granted, they make up the vast majority of our cars, but it's just with the police department.
Okay, so you can sit back down, that answered my question.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be of service.
I don't know how that slipped me, but. Okay, so if no one has any other questions, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, do we have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are now in executive session. There may or may not be
Action for reappointments and appointments for boards and
action
committees.
after executive session.
Why y'all didn't let me speak?
Session, there were no votes taken, no decisions made. And we do have business coming out. So, we have a motion.
Yes, I would like to make a motion. I move that we appoint or reappoint the following people to the town's boards, commissions, and committees with all terms expiring June 30th of 2027. Gene Wilson and Sam Brett to the Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, John Bowen and Dot Yeager to the Beautification Committee, Dan Stark to the Municipal Election Commission, Corinne Reeves and table and re-advise vacant position to the Wall of Honor Committee, Fred Hamilton, Grace Staples, Gwen Chambers, and Emily Burden to the Affordable Housing Committee, Don Emmerich to the Board of Zoning Appeals, Ryan Yacco, Adam Love, and Bill Hughes to the Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Evan Goodwin, Carrie Schmelter, and Tim Probst to the Historic Preservation Commission, Rich Delcourt and Dan Grove to the Planning Commission, and Jennifer Morrow and William O'Toole to the Law Enforcement Citizens Advisory Committee.
Mayor Toomer, if I may, just as a clarification on one of those, if you don't mind, before there's a second. That second Wall of Honor position that we had talked about, that will remain vacant under the proposed motion, just to clarify for the record.
You have that, Marcia?
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Very